we had 25 ships, and at the start of 2013 we had 36 ships. Currently we have 37 ships, and the average age has come down to just 11 years. If you look at the average size per ship, we are now up to 32,000. This slide shows you how the Baltic Dry Index has been fluctuating since the mid-1980s, when we had the last big recession. And if you look at the current levels of the BDI, it is effectively as low as it used to be in the mid-1980s. So the recession, the big recession in shipping that we had in the mid-1980s is now repeating itself in the current market. If you look at this slide, it shows you the average of the BDI for each of these years. I have put down the mid-1980s just to show you what the levels were like at that time, and so that you can compare it with what's happening in 2012, what happened in 2012, and what will happen in 2013. Because I expect that 2013, the average BDI might be lower than what we saw in 2012. So here you can see, when you look at the averages, you can clearly see the type of cyclical changes that take place in this business. Coming to the demand side, what I have here for you is a chart that has been developed by Clarkson's, and it shows you what their view is of the dry bulk market, breaking it down into four principal areas. One is iron ore, the next is coal, the third is grains, and the fourth is all other cargoes. So if you look at it from that point of view, you can see that coal and iron ore are very, very important aspects of the dry bulk market. And between them, if you see their percentages, especially what is forecast for this year, you can see that they are in excess of 55% of the market share. If you look at the BDI chart for a seasonal position, you can see that in the middle of the year, in the months of July, August, September, the BDI always dips down. And if you look at the blue line, which is the average of the BDI during 1985 to 1999, you can see this aspect is very clearly pronounced. And if you look at the pink line, which is the average post 2000, when China became a very important aspect of the dry bulk market, you can see that there is a dip during July and August, but it is not as pronounced as it used to be. That's the first thing. Secondly, Chinese New Year, there is a very sharp dip in the BDI. The reason for this is that if you look at iron ore, coal and steel put together, they are roughly equal to almost 65% of the market, and if you add grains to it, then you're almost at 75–80% of the market share. Now during the months of July, August and September, grain movements stop, and in the past the OECD countries would be dominating the industrial production of the world, and therefore their cargo movements would slow down during the holiday period. Now post China becoming a very important aspect of the industrial production of the world, you can see that aspect quite clearly defined during Chinese New Year, and in fact because of the slowdown of grain movement during the months of July, August and September. Coming to the supply side, if you look at the top half of the slide, then that is the reason why the Baltic Dry Index has remained quite depressed. If you look at the order book for what is scheduled for delivery during 2013, 14, 15 and 16, you can see that you have another 100 million tons expected during 2013, or of roughly about 14.5% of the current deadweight tons in the world. In 2014, this will drop to 31 million tons, or about 4.5%, and in 15 and 16, it's almost negligible. There are two factors that affect the supply side of shipping. The first factor, of course, is scrapping. This is a permanent solution. Once you scrap a ship, you remove it from the supply side. And the other one is the slippage in new buildings. Slippage is defined as the difference between what is actually delivered in a year as against what was projected to be delivered that year. So if you look at scrapping and look at 1986 as an example, that's the last time when we had a big recession, you can see that very young ships were being scrapped. Ships as young as 10 to 15 years of age. If you look at 2012, you can see we've scrapped much more volume of ships, but the age profile is much older. Now, having said that, during 2012, for the first time in the last 25 years, a Cape-size ship of 15 years of age was sent to the scrapyard. More importantly, in the first quarter of this year, an 8-year-old or 10-year-old, exactly 10-year-old Panamax was sent to the scrapyard. She was built in 2003 and was sent to the scrapyard. So you can see that where the ships are not making economical sense, owners are scrapping them even if they happen to be fairly young. This is what slippage has looked like in the last few years. If you look at 2008, we had 23% slippage. In 2009, slippage went up to 41%. In 2010, it was at 38%. 2011, it dropped to 28%. 2012, it remained roughly the same at 29%. And in 2013, that we've shown you shows you the drop in numbers of ships at 28%. But in deadweight ton terms, we expect almost a 30% slippage. So if we apply these two metrics of scrapping of about 35 million tons per annum, and if we apply 30% slippage, and then if you look at 2013, you can see that you would have a growth rate for this year of just 5% and for next year of just 1%. So the big supply side changes that really took place during 2009 to 2012 at an average of about 12.25% per annum is now a thing of the past. So the big supply movement is now over, and if demand grows, as many of the